Yo, what's up guys, it's Tat, and welcome on into 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗆𝗏 Hot Takes. This is where I ask you, my community, to give you your hot takes about 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏. I don't know, it seems like a pretty self-explanatory title. Let's dive right in. The devs are actually doing a good job. Yeah, I think I can agree with this. I think people who would disagree with this are just kind of not liking the game, but I would generally say that the developers are doing a pretty decent job at balancing the game and rolling out new content. Haste and hindered not stacking was the way to go, and not having it move forward is going to hurt the game in the long run. I also actually completely agree with this. The thing is though, it wasn't implemented very well. Like, you need to have all the other haste and hinder perks buffed like all at once or like reasonably close together, because what they did on the PTB kind of sucked. Like, there was like maybe 4 or 5 buffs to perks, and then the rest of the perks in the game were just ignored. And that's not even like including add-ons. Like, there's a number of add-ons that increase movement speed when you're like holding a Huntress Hatchet, or like a Legion's BFF's add-on. So they need to go through and like retroactively like change everything if they're going to ever like cap haste and hindered. But I do think that they actually should cap haste and hindered, or like make them not stack. It would be definitely better for balance. 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗆 could be brought back with the hook requirement and maybe a block to vaulting and dropping pallets for 2 seconds after using it, like Doctor's Power. I think I can actually kind of agree with this one. E for distance, if it was like once per trial, would probably be fine. Like, if it was like once per trial and just doesn't work in endgame, I think it would be fine. Maybe if it also had the condition of requiring to be hooked. The problem with 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗆 is it took literally 0 skill or risk to use. Like, you could just press E in your first chase and then suddenly you looped the killer for 4 gens. Like, it was genuinely that big of a deal. So if you haven't played the game for that long, you might be wondering what we're talking about, but they changed 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗆 so that it no longer gives you distance and just gives you endurance instead. So they kind of reworked the perk a bit. I do think that 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗆 was actually more fun to use, but it was horrible to play against. There is no such thing as a bad perk. Sure, some might be weaker, but they still have value. Even sometimes as basic as Spine Shell is good for new players. That is the purpose it serves, and it does its job. Different perks for different types of players and playstyles, no matter how niche. I kind of agree on this. Like, yeah, like, I don't think every single perk should be anti-tunnel or gen regression or chase base. Like, it's fine to have stuff that like works for chests, but like a perk like Premonition or like Shattered Hope, like, there's no defending those. Those are just terrible perks. Like, they definitely need buffs or reworks to make them like worth using. Like, there's really no like reason to use Premonition when you could use half a dozen other perks to tell you the exact same thing but have less conditions on them. So that's how I would approach that. I really don't think this community is as uniquely toxic as people say. I don't even have to read the rest of this. This is absolutely true. I think the 𝗥𝗏𝗘𝗏𝗆 community is just extremely sensitive. I know that's like kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe you said that in 2025. No, but like literally, like, I've played games in all kinds of other communities, and like, but like literally like a few years ago, like an Asian streamer got bullied by white people on Twitter because she called the Onryo Oreo, and white people were offended on her behalf. What's the problem? Like, oh my god, this fucking people are dumb. That's I think the problem with the DBD community is not toxicity, it's just being absolutely fucking dumb. That's really the issue with it. There should be a normal mode, the event mode, and a ranked mode with an actual MMR and ranking system, because what we have right now has nothing to do with how good you are, and the real MMR is hidden from all players. The game has grown a lot over the years, and I think it should be implemented. It would be better for the player base overall. I actually disagree, because every time they split queues, it feels fucking horrible, man. 2v8, when 2v8 comes out, oh my goodness. So imagine you have 1v4, you have 2v8, and then you have this ranked mode. Dude, that's going to be horrible. And then, of course, all the sweats that would play ranked, they're going to be playing against other sweats in ranked, and they're not going to want to do that. They want to stomp and win every game. So they're just going to go back to 1v4. It's not going to really solve anything. I do agree that MMR should be reworked and like the ranking system should be like adjusted. I think Behavior has said that they plan on like reworking it so that it's not based solely on kills and escapes, but like maybe the number of hooks you have, the number of pallet stuns, etc. But yeah, I think splitting queues would be a horrible idea. The ghoul has an undeserved hate that only comes from people that don't or can't play against the killer, which requires specific counterplay. Skill issue. I kind of agree. Now that the ghoul has been nerfed pretty heavily since his release, I don't really have a problem with him. Like the issue I had with the ghoul was literally his aim assist and like auto aim. That has been patched. Like he used to be able to hit you through walls. He can't do that anymore. So I don't really have a problem with it. Like he has to physically close a distance to connect up close with you to get the hit. So that's been fixed, and they even went further and they changed some of his really strong add-ons. Reworked one of them, I believe, from being a cooldown add-on to instead being like a move speed add-on or something. So yeah, I don't really have an issue with Ghoul. I think the people who still hate on Ghoul and want him to be nerfed, they just want to win every game. That's really all it is. Skull Merchant should be reverted. And Survivor Gem perks should have been nerfed alongside Killer Gem perks. Okay, so let's tackle the Gem perk stuff, because I think that's easier. And that is flat yes. They definitely should have done both Generate Repair and Slowdown perks all at once, because like only buffing one or nerfing the other doesn't work so well, because it's a competitive ASIM. Like you're gonna have people that are gonna abuse that. So yeah, definitely they should have done all of the stuff at once, sort of like with Haste and Hindered that I touched on earlier. And yeah, Skull Merchant, if we're talking about pre-nerf, I agree. If we're talking about 1.0, absolutely fucking not. At 1.0, Skull Merchant was a very poorly designed killer. She had nothing in chase. She was literally just exposed and detection. That was it. That's all she had. And so the best way you would play her was to hold a 3-gen. So they fixed the 3-gen and they gave her like a chase power, but her chase power, I agree, is kind of shit. But at least like you could kind of use it as like a trap player, like a trap killer, like Hag or Trapper. So yeah, if we're talking about the double scan line merchant, I agree. If we're talking about the old exposed knows where you are at all times on the gen merchant, yeah, that's a flat no for me. In order for Legion to be competitive and well balanced, he should know he needs his ult implementation of interaction with Deep Wound in his power, being able to deplete Deep Wound with the subsequent hits, but this time without the exploits like Moonwalking. I completely agree. I think a lot of people are just like, they're patently against this idea, or like they think it's absurd, but I genuinely think like there's nothing wrong with it. Like the killer hit you, like yeah, that should do something. I don't think it should be as strong as it used to be, and there definitely shouldn't be add-ons that like deplete Deep Wound faster, but he definitely needs like at the very least, like if Killer Instinct is active, hitting someone who has Deep Wound should take a chunk out of it, but not enough to down them. So this guy goes on to say, yeah, that like you should be able to like go back to someone who hasn't mended in a while to like hit them and potentially down them. I think that's fine. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that, so I completely agree here. In light of recent conversations, I think characters like Darth Vader, what is going on DBD space? I'm sorry, I live under a rock. Characters like Darth Vader fit in Dead by Daylight, and it's up to the developers to decide if they want this to be a strictly horror game or to allow more horror adjacent picks. I'm just gonna echo what I've said for like the longest time. I don't give a fuck what character I play. They could add Super Mario into Dead by Daylight and I wouldn't care. Okay, like genuinely, I don't care. The gameplay is you run around a block of wood. I think people need to stop taking the game so seriously and maybe consider touching some grass for once in their life. Pallet should take less time to break but stun the killer for longer to disincentivize pre-dropping, and there should be a more competitive queue that gives more blood points to keep Swifts and Sweaty killers out of normal matching. Okay, yeah, so again with the split queue thing, Sweaty players, it doesn't work in every game. There's a ranked mode, it doesn't work. People always smurf or just go in the other queue and just ruin lobbies. It doesn't work. I do agree that pallets should definitely be broken a little bit faster. Like basically like tier 1 brutal strength I think should be made base kit again. Just make it like a flat 2 seconds to break. I mean, it really wouldn't affect high-end killers too much. It would just be a nice buff to like M1 Andes, like Wraith and Legion as an example. I'm not sure if they should take longer to stun, but maybe they could like potentially make any means necessary like base kit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's too much, but just an idea to toss into the ring. The old tome system was infinitely better, and the removal of the lore memories was such an unnecessary and dumb change to the point where it was the lore department's equivalent of the rework that gave 𝗕𝗹𝘂𝗶𝘆. Why in the world would they stop doing lore for tomes, the literal update before the FNAF chapter, whose community loves lore in their games? I agree that removing lore was dumb. I don't know why they did that. They buried it in like this in the tome or like the quest menu. Like you have to go to the very bottom of the screen. There's a small button to like go read all the lore and get all the old tome challenges. But the actual like challenges themselves, the new system's way better, especially from like a casual player's perspective. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I do not play DBD for like 8 hours a day. Like I log on, I play it for stream, and then I turn it off, and like that's it. Like I'm not playing the game for hours and hours. So to be able to hop on, just like, you know, grind out like 4 or 5 quests without even looking at what they are and just make progress in the Rift, that's huge. That's genuinely huge. It's really casual friendly. I think the old system was really unfriendly and just was super clunky to use as well. Like you pick one challenge at a time. That sucks. That sucks. I do think they should rename the quest system to rituals, because I think that's more thematic for the game, but that's pretty much my 2 cents on that. Using Franklin's No One Escapes Death, or NOED, and Lightborn all in the same build isn't toxic. I don't think anyone legitimately thinks it's toxic. Maybe unless like you're like really smooth brain. Okay, here's the thing. Using perks in the game the developers intended you to use is not toxic. There's nothing toxic about that. It might be a buzzword for like a YouTube title. Okay, we've all done that. But it's not toxic. It's just not. Like it's the same thing like doing gens or like tunneling or camping. Like it's not toxic. It's just a thing in the game that you can do. I think what is toxic is, you know, going out of your way to like call someone a slur or some shit because you lost in the game. That is toxic. Any killer with a blink, dash, or movement speed ability that allows them to traverse a third of the map in seconds should be 4.4 meter per second speed. The ones that primarily come to mind are Blight and 𝗥𝗏𝗂𝗏. I'm willing to let Wesker slide because he primarily uses his dash and chase. I completely agree. Why does 𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Blight get to just immediately zoom to? I think 𝗥𝗏𝗏𝗏 I'm willing to kind of let go because he can't like directly down you with his power. Like he has to cancel his ability and catch up with 4.6 speed. But Blight, oh, 100%. There's zero reason why Blight should be 4.6. Blight 1,000,000% should be 4.4. He doesn't need to be 4.6. Hell, even Spirit, who's slower than Blight and has a power on cooldown, like yeah, she can turn invisible for like 5 seconds, but she's 4.4. So I have no idea why Blight is 4.6. Killers need baseline pallet breaking speed buff again. High tier killers are bypassing pallets either way. I just talked about this earlier, but yeah, I completely agree. Word for word, yes. We've reached a point in Dead by Daylight's killer balance where the killer role could seriously use some proper base kit game slowdown. Generator kicking is practically necessary for the lower tier killers to not get absolutely floored by the opposing team, but waste valuable time for them doing so, making it mostly useless anyway. Having something like the current effect of Grim Embrace of Corrupt Intervention at base kit would make weaker killers feel like they're actually able to perform at a relatively decent level, and if people are worried about stronger killers making this overpowered, maybe make certain perks like Pain Resonance deactivate the effect to prevent massive slowdown stacking whilst allowing weaker killers to not be forced to dedicate 2 or 3 perk slots to slowdown. Yeah, so I kind of agree with this. Like, killers with high mobility like Billy and Blight will always be able to benefit more from generator slowdown perks than M1 killers. I think honestly the best thing they could do, rather than like making like generators like take longer or like lose more progress, is maybe just make them regress a little bit quicker. Right now it takes 4 seconds to undo 1 second of repair progress, so it's a quarter charge per second. If they made that like a third a charge per second, so 0.33 up from 0.25, I think that could help a little bit, but I don't know if I would do any more than that, because buffing gen regression, especially now, is kind of risky. Like, just look at the roster, man. The possibilities of perk stacking is kind of crazy. So yeah, Well, that's it, guys. Those are all the hot takes that I decided to include in this episode. If you did want to watch more of this, you know what to do. Go ahead and leave some more hot takes down below. If you like this video, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.